I'm here in the Pridnestrovian Moldavian Republic, or as it's more commonly known, Transnistria. Now, the strange thing about Transnistria is that it's not actually recognised by most of the rest of the nations of the world. It's legally a part of Moldova according to people like the UN. However, it has its own police force, its own borders, its own military, its own government, its own health and education systems. So it is, in effect, its own state. It's just that nobody else will agree to see it that way. So how did this strange turn of events happen? Well, it's kind of a long story, but essentially at the fall of the Soviet Union, the rest of Moldova, west of the Dniester, in Chisinau, in the capital, wanted to move towards Romania, wanted to kind of westernize a little bit more, go back to using the Latin alphabet instead of the Cyrillic alphabet, which Russia uses, make Romanian/Moldavian, very, very similar languages, the official language. There was even rumour that Moldova and Romania would reunify. Now, people east of the Dniester, who think of themselves as a lot more Russian, still use Cyrillic, still wanted to use Russian, weren't very happy about this, and started forming workers' councils to take over factories, started kicking Moldovan police out of the police stations and forming their own police force, and it just kind of snowballed until there was eventually a big but short but bloody war, and Transnistria, the PMR, was born. God, I should say, originally it was the PMSSR, Soviet Socialist Republic, but it is now the PMR. But that's not really what I'm here to talk about today. You can find out a lot about the history of the PMR very easily with Wikipedia. There's books, there's blogs, there's vlogs, you know, you can find it everywhere, and I'm not going to add another video to that pile. What I'm actually here to talk about is how people from the West tend to react to Transnistria. The things that you see in vlogs and blogs and speaking to other travellers, you hear a lot about how it's very Soviet, it's very Stalinist. I expect you to come here and see, you know, kind of glum-faced men outside huge concrete blocks smoking cigarettes and complaining about Lenin or something. And it's just really not like that at all. As far as I can see, it's a modern, forward-thinking kind of country, a really nice place. And sure, there is a lot of kind of Soviet aesthetic in some things, but, you know, what else would you expect? So I decided to make a little video kind of explaining what Transnistria is really about in the 2021, not back in the 80s or the 90s, not just going and looking at kind of the past, but looking at the now. Let's do it. While it might not fit the stereotype, you're actually more likely to find yourself in a place like this than like this. I'm here in the CCCP cafe. Now I know that it looks pretty Soviet, and it is. You know, there's a lot of things on the walls, a lot of Gorbachevs, a lot of Lenins, a lot of red. Now, a lot of videos might try and portray this as pretty typical of Tiraspol, pretty typical of Transnistria, but actually the owner of it just had a bunch of old Soviet memorabilia in the garage and decided to open a cafe, and this is what the result is. A little bit of a tourist trap, but ultimately the borscht is good and the beer is organic. While it's fun to be had seeing some of the Soviet relics and hanging out in the CCCP cafe, there's a lot more to Transnistria than that, and it's kind of doing a little bit of a disservice to the people here to portray it as, you know, just this backwoods place. Honestly, I promise, not everybody goes around dressed like this all the time. Speaking to some of them, I kind of got this feeling that they weren't fully respected as the country that they actually are in 2021 by the people who come here and the people who write and make videos about the place.
I want them to know that the image, you know, of the country, what they have, it's not, let's say, it's old history. They didn't saw it, and I'm just calling them to come here and to feel it.
Bad reputation is actually fake. The safest place on earth.
More than anything, it's important to appreciate that different people are going to think different things. Some people don't feel like the country is Soviet at all anymore.
It's bullshit. Pridnestrovia is not Soviet at all. We are probably the most capitalist country in the world.
Some people like it to be more Soviet again because life was, for them, a little bit better then.
That's the difference. In Soviet times, they could survive with one job. Now you can't. And that's why old people are saying they would like to go back to USSR. Back to USSR!
Even in rural areas like this, it all looks pretty much indistinguishable from any other non-Soviet, non-ex-Soviet kind of Eastern Central European kind of village. And then somewhere plonked in the middle of it, you'll find something like this. It feels kind of like window dressing in a lot of ways. I should point out that I was told by people who did not want to appear on camera for obvious reasons that the government actually comes down pretty hard on things like free speech and if you try and criticise the administration or indeed Putin's Russia. Just being quite sternly told off by some soldiers for taking video of them, and then they made me delete all the videos, so that's not good.
It's something like democracy.
Something like democracy, why not democracy? What's the difference?
You know, just...
It's certainly tempting to just call this kind of a Soviet holdover and say, ha, look, the country is still Soviet. But that's really not appreciating the reality of this situation. The company is actually largely enthralled to a corporation called Sharif of Sharif Tiraspol fame. Most politicians are very friendly to Sharif, and Sharif are very friendly back to them.
Like, you know, it's monopoly.
In spite of the aesthetics of some areas and, you know, the way the government's run in some ways, it really is, like I said before, doing a huge disservice to the people here to describe it as some sort of Soviet stronghold. I actually saw one video even saying it's the last Soviet state, which is, you know, just patently ridiculous. It's good to try and look beyond what you see on YouTube, what you see on blogs before you arrive somewhere and decide for yourself what the place is actually like. If you can do that, you might just find yourself some hidden gems.
We open, and all the bad things you probably heard, all this propaganda is a fake, but you can just come and see. And we make cognac, not war.